Hello, this is the DIY Magician, and we're going to do something special today. That's right, we're going to take something out of here and turn it into something from out of here. That's right, we're making custom spring snakes. Okay, today we're doing something out of the ordinary. We're not dismantling anything, we're not reviewing anything. We're making custom spring snakes. I'm going to start off with a snake, a spring snake from the King Nut Can from the, it's the Empire brand. Now this has the little rattle in the bottom, and it's a good can, but they put the springs in with a plastic wrapper, and I've never liked that because it's not very efficient. Well, we'll do this one. It does fly pretty good, but I had to have something different. I had to have a cloth snake, and they were getting harder and harder to find. So this particular can comes with 3 snakes, one on the floor. But let me show you how it works. You just remove the snakes. If you notice, there's a little air hole occasionally put in there. I just rip into it there. Remove the snake, or spring I should say. Discard the wrapper. Now, something you want to know about when you're working with spring snakes is that they are manufactured quickly. And you can actually customize them just by just a little bit of effort. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch this out. So I take the spring not at the final loop, but at the one next to it. So if you'll see right here, I've got my thumb there, and I'll hold on to the actual spring itself and just pull it apart like we're doing an exercise, okay? And I'm actually, as you can see, reaching off screen when I do that. I release it a little bit, and then I pull it one more time, just like that, as long as you can hold it, and then you let it go. Now, it does a couple things. It actually stretches the spring out, but it also gives it a little width. So you might want to just slightly, ever so slightly, go in there and give it a little bit of pushing on those, just a little bit. I don't do this all the time, but sometimes if I want a skinny snake, I do that. Other than that, we've taken what would be normally this length and stretched it out to this length. Now, the only other thing you might want to do is actually put the spring back in the can and let it sit for a little bit. Again, I don't do this all the time because these snakes, these springs, actually do pretty well. But if you're doing a longer snake, you might have to have a little helper, not a little helper, but a helper grab one end, and then you're going to go shooting across the room, good 20-30 feet across the room, and stretch it out and do the same thing. So you're going to stretch it out once, go back, and stretch it out again. I've taken the longer, the chip can snake springs, and I've been able to stretch them out to 7 feet long. Again, it's important on the longer ones to put them back in the container for a few minutes or overnight or as long as you need, and it will stop at a rest point right there. So in other words, we have the spring here and the wrap snake here. So you can see how much longer you can make these springs. So that's the first step. The next step is finding the material. When choosing a material, you want to make sure that you get something that is silky or smooth or somewhat durable, maybe a little stretchy material. And I've got several to choose from here. Starting at this end, these 3 are very silky, and I've used these 3 on the smaller snakes. Now, when you get into the larger snake, you may not want to get the silky or a satiny type. You might want to get a polyester style, and this is a polyester print that I've used on my larger snakes. Here's another one here, and the difference is that it tends to stretch a little bit, and when you're using the snakes for the larger snakes and outdoor purpose and then this and that. You want something that has that durability and the stretch. These, you'll notice, are nice and colorful. This is some sort of a paisley, but you'll notice that it doesn't stretch at all. That's what I use for the smaller snakes. And that's what we're going to do in a second. We're going to figure out how to cut a snake skin. Cutting a spring snake skin could never be easier if you have the right tools. And I'm going to tell you what I do. I have my spring here, but with the spring I also have my cutting mat. I'm going to pick this up first, which is right here, and it's a little idea that was used a long time ago. I'm not sure if I can even get it up off the, there it is. It's something that sewing people have used for years. It allows you to use a razor blade or a cutting implement on this, and it reseals itself. In addition to that, I have a, looks like a, oh boy, if I can read it upside down here. Let's flip it over. About a 25-inch, 24-inch clear ruler, okay? Now, you may notice, if I hold the spring up to the back of the ruler here, it actually is the perfect size. And that's it. It really is the perfect size for the medium spring snake. So you get your little Fiskars cutting mat and your Fiskars clear ruler, and the measurement from here to here is pretty close. It's a snug fit, so sometimes I'm a little more carefree with my cutting. But I'm going to take a scrap of material, a nice floral pattern. This is a polyester, and I'm going to lay it across and show you exactly how we do it. All right, get the material laid out. The nice thing about the clear ruler is that you can see what you are cutting. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to actually cut it. Well, you know what? It really doesn't matter on these prints because they're wrapped around and they are sewn together. So you never know where the seam is going to be. And sadly, this is not enough to make two. I wish it were, but I might use this for something else a little later on. But the main thing is you're gonna lay out your design. You're gonna find out where the mat is. Usually I do this on a table with a larger mat. This is the portable mat. Still the same thing. In addition to that, this particular brand is an Olfa, OLFA rotary cutter. And think of pizza. This is what you're going to do. If you're cutting in this direction, you would pull this little back thing, and then you've got a cutting surface there. So watch this. Hold tight. And you're basically going to cut against the edge of the ruler. You'll notice that now it peels back. Excellent. Now I will switch it to the other side, and I will hold down on this side, and you got to make sure that you're in a spot where the ruler is, otherwise you're going to cut your table up. We're going to do this. We're going to go right to the edge there, and then we're going to follow, whoops. You got to really get it right up against the edge of the ruler, and pushing away from you is usually the best way to do it. Now you want to get a little over so that you can cut that, and you'll notice again that this can peel back there. Now let's see here. We're going to switch back to this side. We're going to cut it over here, just like so, keeping your fingers out of the way. And you want to be careful. If you put your hand in the middle, it's going to want to pivot on you. So sometimes I'll actually switch my hand over to the far end, and then you're able to do that. So let's see here. That just peels right off there, right to the edge. Sometimes you need a little extra cut. There we go. Okay. So now we have a clean edge on that side, and we're going to have a clean edge on this side. So I'm going to flip it back to the other way. Again, just like a pizza cutter, you're cutting right along the edge, that side, and then I'm going to switch over to here. And one last move, just to get it right to the end. And that peels away there. You have now successfully cut a snakeskin. Let's see how we have to put it together. Well, here I am with my, that's right, my sewing machine. This is one of my favorite things. It's a Brother. Other than that, I couldn't tell you. It's a basic sewing machine. The story is my wife bought it to do projects for herself. She bought it at Costco, and I just took over. So this is the way I want to recommend doing this is find somebody who has a sewing machine. Either have them make it for you, or you can learn to do it yourself. Now, the best way to do that, and this was a recommendation by a gentleman I met many years ago who ran a backhoe service. I asked him, how do you learn to use a backhoe? He says, you buy a backhoe, you find an empty field, and you just use the controls, and you do it that way. So that's how I learned how to use the sewing machine. It was just trial by error, and it eventually worked out just fine. So I'm not going to tell you how to use a sewing machine, but I'll tell you how I use a sewing machine to make a spring snake skin. So hang on a second, and I'm going to get it all ready to go. All right. When you're making a snake skin, or pretty much anything you're sewing, you want to find the back side, and you want to find the front side of a material, okay? Sometimes you might have to shift in the light to make sure you get the right spot. But the main thing is you want the colorful side or the bright side on the inside when you're making a snake skin. You're going to fold it together, find the corner, place it in the machine. You want to do as close to the foot as possible. I'm talking, it looks like maybe 1/4 of an inch. But before you get started, you want to make sure that see, in this one moved a bit. You want to make sure the material is lined up perfectly. Some of the materials I've used in the past tend to want to move when you put pressure on them. So, or when you're pushing them around, what have you. So you want to make sure that you are right at the right spot together. Excellent. Okay. You start towards the end, of course, not of course, but you start towards the end, and you do a couple of stitches to get it started, okay? Just like so. Now, then you're going to go in reverse. Again, you're going to have to learn how to use a machine to do this, but if you know what I'm doing. Going in reverse, okay? Then you line it up, and away you go. Now, what I try and do is keep it, again, as close as possible to the edge to give you the maximum amount of snake skin, okay, for lack of a better term. And I'll warn you, it's going to go slow, because I'm a slow guy here. Okay, here we go. Now, I'm not in a race, so I'm always stopping to make sure it's lined up. Okay, now I'm at the end. This is where I make sure that I'm doing it just right, because there's going to be a lot of stress and strain on that junction. I will back it up a few just to make sure it's locked in. Okay. Go right back to the original end point. And then flip up the foot, turn the material, and start again going across the end of the snakeskin. Back it up a few. It's where sometimes it'll bunch up a little bit, so you don't have to do too many times, just enough to get it locked in. Make sure that the needle is on the material. Flip the foot. Now you're going to spin it around. Sometimes you might have to pick it up a little bit and loosen it. There we go. Foot down. And now you're going to over sew what you have already done. So this is how I do it with all my snakes. I double stitch them. Again, back it up a couple times at the junction, just to play it safe. All right, flip and turn. Now this is going to be the easiest spot because now you have, as you see there, a nice black line telling you where you need to sew. So this one will go a little faster. Then at the end you need to back it up a couple times. Now it's not very critical because this is where you're going to be over sewing the end of the snake. So we're going to do that in a moment. And now we get to show you how the snake skin turned out. Just like that. You want to get in there and trim off the little bits and pieces of the original thread. And there we go. You have now a snake skin that is turned inside out. Hang on a second and I'll show you the next step. Okay, putting a snake skin on a spring is very easy. The skin is still inside out. It's just as simple as turning a sock inside out. Sometimes it's a little easier than others, but I usually just bunch it all up inside like that and unfold the inside. Sometimes it helps again. If you do that a couple times, there we go. Okay. There it is, turned inside out. So now you see that it's really nice and pretty and fancy and all that. Okay. Put the sock on, same thing. Now what I found is it's easiest to get it started and then kind of loop it over the coils of the spring. As you see, sometimes it's easier than others. This is the stretchy material, so I think it'll move a little easier. When the materials is the satiny, more of the solid or less giving material, it's a little snug. But I found that this is the perfect size skin for these snakes because you don't want to have a lot of excess material in the smaller or medium size snakes, just like that. The bigger ones, not so bad because you usually have a larger container and it works just fine. Okay, so what we've got now is we've got a spring that is not quite in there. So it's in, but we need to push it all the way down. So we're going to take the material, hold it, and you're going to push the material or push the spring down inside the material. Okay, take a binder clip, clip it solid like that, so that you have all this fabric loose, and hang tight. We're going to be able to finish it up in just a moment. Okay, now that we've got the spring inside the snake skin, we're going to have to seal it up. So what I found is if I just take the end and fold it over about a ½ inch inside the snake itself, or inside the skin, just like that. Take the other side, fold it about the same, then it will even out, just like this. So you have an inside folding over area. I don't know what quite to call it, but you get the idea. I think you're trying to have an even amount of material on the inside because you want a nice clean edge. If I were just to sew it without doing this, it would start to fray and look terrible, okay? So that's what I've done there. I have a little mouth right there, what have you. So I'm going to lock that in to the machine. Now, let's see here. Make sure that the needle is up. Yep, there it is. We're locking the end in. And then you take something like the end of your scissors. Only if you've got these cheapo scissors here. You don't want to use the good quality sewing scissors because it will probably rip the material. But the cheaper ones, you can actually get in there and shift it over so that it's just perfect and then lock it in like that, okay? Now, what I've done here is I've done a kind of a major mistake that I've done before, and that is I've folded it where the seam is on the half spot. So now what I'm going to do, I'm sure this is sounding confusing. I'm folding it over. So now that the seam is in the middle, so it'll look hopefully a little bit nicer and make it a little easier to finish up this. So let's do it again. I just shifted it to the side. So let's do that. Lock it in there again. We're going to make sure that we have an equal amount all around. Okay. And it's just like anything else. You're going to start a little bit. You're going to back it up. Then you're going to start and go all the way through. You're going to back it out now a little bit. I usually just double up on that end. Go back to the end again. And then you're going to lift the claw and you're going to turn it around and you're going to go back to where you started, just to make sure that this is not given loose. Here we go. Going to do the double back again. And finish it. Probably double back a little bit more. And there we go, right to the edge. Okay. All right. Nice thing about this is when you do it right, you can actually finish off the edge of everything at once. One fell swoop. You get in there, get all 4 threads, and away it goes. And now you have nicely and neatly finished the end. Pull that scrap off there. Now, let's take the clip off. Stretch it all out. And there it is. Inside, you now have a perfectly shaped snake's right there. The snake skin perfectly shaped. And away it goes. Hang tight and I'll show you the final reveal. So here it is, the final reveal, to show you the difference now that it's done. Doesn't look like much, but when you do them all like this, you're gonna have a much nicer spring snake. Look at that. Look at the difference there. And I'll show you the difference from here. Let's do this. Let's put this in and watch this one jump. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. And now for our newly lined up one, here we go. Ready? Just like that. The perfect spring snake that you can make yourself. Again, this is the DIY Magician. Until next time. If you enjoyed this video from the DIY Magician, you also might enjoy joining our Facebook group. That's right, the DIY Magician Facebook group. Or you can visit our artist page. That's right, the DIY Magician artist page on Facebook. Or if you want to, please subscribe to YouTube videos and you'll see all the up-to-date videos as they come along. Thank you again for watching the DIY Magician video. Oh! There goes that picture frame.